Thank you. All right, let's go back to our top story this evening, the conviction of Lucy Letby, who has been found guilty of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 6 others. Today's judgments mean the 33-year-old nurse is now the UK's worst child serial killer. The 10-month trial heard how she attacked her victims over a year while working on a maternity unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Speaking outside court, a spokesperson for the victims' families said what they'd been through was unimaginable.
Today, justice has been served and a nurse who should have been caring for our babies has been found guilty of harming them. But this justice will not take away from the extreme hurt, anger and distress that we've all had to experience.
Well, I'm joined again by Sangeeta Lal, who is at Manchester Crown Court, and by our UK editor, Paul Brand, who is here with me in the studio. And Sangeeta, there have been 17 families involved in this trial. What's been the impact on them?
Well, every day of this trial, parents have had to relive the worst moments of their lives. And some parents have been dealing with the grief of losing a child, then years later have had to process that someone might have murdered their babies and now having to comprehend a neonatal nurse killed them. And as one of the prosecutors said here today, Lucy Letby used her skill as a nurse to turn innocuous substances like air and insulin into lethal weapons that she used to attack babies, many that were in her care. Now, I've spoken to one of the families involved who have twin baby boys, both who luckily survived Letby's attacks, but one has been left with brain damage. We also know of another little baby girl who is now living with quadriplegic cerebral palsy. But families are having to process the knowledge that their babies should be here. Their children should be in school now and their children should be leading ordinary lives. But Lucy Letby took that away from them. And when the guilty verdicts were read out in court, many parents cried, some gasped and others leant forward with their head in their hands, now having to comprehend what they finally know.
OK, Sangeeta in Manchester, thank you. Paul, we now know that government's ordered an independent inquiry into this. What lines do you think it will take?
Well, look, there's only one person responsible for the deaths of those babies, and that is Lucy Letby. But the big question in that inquiry is going to be, how did she get away with it for so long? How was it that doctors, 7 of them, who repeatedly raised concerns with management, were overruled and not listened to? And I think there'll be a broader question, too, coming out of that inquiry about the accountability of NHS managers. If a doctor makes a mistake, they're referred to the General Medical Council, they can lose their licence. If an NHS manager makes a catastrophic mistake, like they did, quite frankly, here, they can continue working. Many of them are continuing to work in the NHS. There are already concerns, though, this evening that this is, as you say, an independent inquiry. It's not a public inquiry. People aren't necessarily going to be compelled to give evidence to this inquiry, and the doctors say that means it might not be fully transparent, it might not be fully thorough, it might not be accountable, and that is a concern for them this evening.
Yeah. All right, Paul, thank you. All right, stay with us this Friday night. Still to come.
It looks like a rainy wind.